Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Healing and Dealing podcast. I'm so excited today. I have Katherine Pope, aka Kat, with me. She was one of my coaches when I went through the path with This Naked Mind. Kat is also a medical death investigator and forensic anthropologist. Wow, that's amazing. And then she also studies and mentors effective mental health and wellness structures to support her peer first and last responders. She is a certified Naked Mind coach and has been alcohol free since February of 2021. Hi, Kat. Welcome.
Hey, so
I'm,
good to be
s-
on here.
you were one of the first people that came to my mind where I was like, I have to have her on. You have a plethora of knowledge, especially about, changing your relationship with alcohol. And you made such an impact on me when we had our weekly sessions. Like I would always try to make your calls because you just have this way of really getting to the root of things and just being so real and authentic with all of us who were in the path. So I
I'm
really
so proud of you, Charlotte. It's just like, it's unbelievable to see how far you've come. I'm so proud.
thank you. Yeah, today's
Yeah,
8 months alcohol free on the dot. It's
so awesome.
it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I'm happier than I've ever been. That's for sure. And we can
Yeah.
definitely get more into that. First, I really would love to hear like your story with alcohol and what brought you to be a coach for This Naked Mind.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think I have a pretty familiar story with most people, and just that, like, drank a little bit in high school, drank a little bit more in college, and I married my college sweetheart. We met the very first week in college.
Wow, that's crazy.
And yeah, so we moved from college to graduate school, and he ended up getting his PhD, and we moved again, and then we had kids, and like the whole time we're kind of just drinking socially, and it's never really a big deal. And then I would say probably, I worked as a medical legal death investigator, so I had a pretty significantly stressful job. And it wasn't until we kind of moved to where we live now, where we live in a pretty small community and my kids were getting older, that the casework really started feeling icky. I never had a problem working in the job that I do because I love it. I find it very interesting. No two cases are the same. But I think I didn't ever receive training in how to be resilient or how to handle stress,
Right.
how other than hitting the bar after work with
Yeah,
with the people
yeah.
I worked with. And so I found myself really like 2018 super burned out at work. And I think this is true for a lot of people. You don't have to be in a job where you're dealing with dead people to be burned out.
Yeah.
Nurses, teachers, social workers, moms, dads, people just get burnt out. And when you don't have like effective strategies on how to talk to people or self-care, de-stress, just sit down
Mm-hmm.
and relax, then it just keeps the ball of wax, just keeps getting tighter and tighter. And eventually
Excuse me.
I really didn't feel like I could move anymore. And all that would let me relax was drinking.
Mm,
And I found myself just like, I would pour alcohol down my throat as soon as I got home. And, my husband didn't really see that I had a problem. I wasn't messing
mm-hmm.
up at work. I didn't get a DUI. I didn't crash. I didn't get fired. But I was blacking out. I was missing
Mm-hmm.
memories with my kids, and I didn't feel good in my body.
Right.
And I was just so sick when I finally realized that I needed to start stopping. I was just so sick of like waking up with headaches and my heart was pounding and my thoughts were racing in the morning. Like Annie Grace says in her book, like 3:33 a.m. I would wake
Yep.
up.
Same happened to
And
me.
it's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, I remember like I bought her book probably a year before I really started quitting. And I wrapped it in one of those like grocery bags, like a brown grocery bag, just like
Mm-hmm.
in middle school. So nobody would see it and know that I was like thinking about quitting drinking.
Oh my gosh, sorry, my throat. Okay.
I want to hand you my water, but I can't.
I have some, but it's not working. I don't know what's going on. I just have a little
Sorry.
tickle. Sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
okay. Yeah, I think like, I mean, it was a magic day when on Facebook or so, I don't even remember where it came from, but the live alcohol experiment kind of fell into my lap in July. It was, almost 3 years ago, July 2020. It was COVID. We were all locked down, and I was parenting my kids at home, like homeschooling, because everybody was at
Yeah,
home, and the work environment just got really toxic, and it was just like everything exploded. And this came to me like in this like divine intervention. I was like, a 30-day break from alcohol. Yeah,
that
I'm
sounds
gonna do
nice.
that. That sounds really nice. And it didn't, I hate to say I didn't succeed that month, because I did. Like, it opened all of my mind up into this thing that I had been ingesting for years and
Mm-hmm.
never questioned whatsoever what it was doing to me.
Yep.
And like, I'm gluten free because I have celiac disease. Like, I had started experiencing all these stomach symptoms prior, and I was doing things with food. I was trying medicine. You know what it was? Alcohol. It's the
Wow.
alcohol that was giving me all these horrible stomach symptoms. That went
Wow.
away that month. My anxiety, I did drink. I think I drank 5 times during the month of July in 2020, which was a huge reduction for me.
Mm-hmm.
I started to get that clarity that you start to get. I learned what alcohol does as far as anxiety. I have been diagnosed with PTSD, and drinking alcohol when you have PTSD is not a good choice. That is not the way to heal from your anxiety disorder or your
Right.
PTSD. And so I started learning more about that, how it was affecting like my sex drive and my sleeping habits and my eating habits, all of my parenting, my memories, my
Mm-hmm.
skin, my exercise habits. I always used to love exercising, but I could never stick to a routine because many times I would wake up hungover.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I ended up, I did pretty good in July, like just learning things. And I was like, I'm going to keep this going. So, I think I did 4 more live alcohol experiments. And in
Wow.
this Naked Mind, they do like different coaches every time. So you
Mm-hmm.
get an opportunity to hear so many different stories. And the live coaching was really what kind of, man, it really hit home. And that first holiday season in 2020, when I was completely sober through the whole thing, um, just it changed my life. I was like, this is amazing. I feel, it's not easy, but
Right.
it was like, it was so worth it and so much better. And then by February, like, I knew, I was like, I have to bring this to my coworkers, to all these
Mm.
last responders. And but I was still kind of drinking here and there. I would have, like, I'd go 6 weeks and then I'd drink, or and I'd be like, oh, why did I do that? I'd start to dig in and ask myself questions. So in February, I actually signed up to be a coach with this Naked Mind. And I was like, if I want to really preach this to my people, if I want to share this with the world, like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to make a decision. I need to live what I want to teach. And that was that.
Yes. Yeah. What a beautiful decision you made. Because you're perfect for
Yeah.
it. You really are. How has it been? Like, so you said that even when you were going through that sober curious months, you would go 6 weeks without drinking and then maybe have one. Has that happened since you've been a coach, or you've just been good? Like, no, you haven't drank at all, or
No, I think, and so since February 2021, that was it. That's it. No, I
okay.
wouldn't say good, like, that's the funny thing about this, is like, I made a choice that day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the date. I wish I could, because people always love to like count days, but for me, that didn't work. I wanted to take a lot of the pressure off. I'm not
Yeah.
all about labels, I like to I kind of just go. So that day when I made the decision, I was like, this is not forever. This may not be forever, but for right now, I can't think of a good reason
Right.
to drink.
I feel like
And
that's so important because so many
yeah,
people get stuck on that forever and they're like, "Oh, it just completely turns them away from even trying it." So, changing the language around it works so good for me too because now even it's like I can drink, I just don't want to. But
yep,
if you're forcing it and you're white knuckling and you're like, I can't drink, and it makes you obsess about it, and you're like, forever? How long's forever? That means, when I'm 50 on my birthday, I can't have a glass of champagne, and you just like start obsessing, right? And like thinking
yeah,
about all the events coming your way. But it's like they say, day by day, you're like, today I don't want to drink. So
yeah.
yeah.
during that sober curious period, like I kept testing the waters. I think for me, when I noticed that I wanted to kind of cut back, it was that like I couldn't have just one.
Mm,
That fun, that enjoyment, that relaxation was gone. It was like my off switch was gone.
yep.
And so what I tell people now is like, well, I know I can't just have one, so I choose to have none.
Mm-hmm.
And that may change in the future. I don't know. I don't have a good excuse right now to
Yeah.
test it. I'm enjoying this life right now.
Well, I mean, we know the way alcohol works. Once you have
Mhm.
one, I mean, what happens? You know better than me. You could explain it. It's that dopamine spike, and then you go into the
Yeah.
what is it?
Yeah,
Dinorph
dynorphin is
Dynorphin.
released in your brain to bring you back to homeostasis because you're getting this unnatural dump of dopamine. And it's from an unnatural substance too. Like when we have sex, we've worked on that, like we've built this
Yes.
thing and it comes because we have imagined it and perceived it and made it happen. But like booze is just like clock it back and you get
Mm-hmm.
this unnatural dump. So then the dynorphin is released, which crashes you. It gives you that itchy, that uncomfortable feeling, and that's the stuff that lasts for longer. And if you drink some more, you get up a little bit farther, but never up as far as you were in that first drink.
Right. I can picture the graph that's in the
Yeah,
path because it shows you when you have that first drink and then how long it takes for it
yeah,
to come out of your system and return back to homeostasis is like three times. It's like for every 20 minutes, it's like 2 hours or something, right?
yeah, yep,
So, and
absolutely.
that's why you always reach for that second drink and the third drink and the fourth drink, and then that's what increases your hangover
Yep,
also. So, like when I used to drink it, I would drink, 6, 7, 8 cocktails in one night and feel terrible for 2 days. You know,
yeah,
it
oh yeah.
was it was not fun at all.
It's not worth it.
It's
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Mhm.
The
But
other
you have
thing,
this, yep,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, you have this, it's why we women keep having babies because we
That's
have
so
this
true.
block.
That's so
You
true.
know, we have this, we have this reminder, like dopamine stamps down these good feelings really hardcore. Like, let's do that more. It's the motivation, it's the drive to continue to do those good things.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily remember the hangovers as well. We're
Right.
remembering the parties and the fun and the, like cutting the grass and the good smell and you're drinking a beer or like, you're on the beach with your friends and you're having white claws. Like that's the good stuff we remember, but we don't remember the driving home blackout drunk with your kids in the car or, like
Right.
those
Right.
horrible things. And the hangovers fade and then you're back to like, well, I could just have one, but you
And
can't.
yeah, yeah, you just started all over. That's so, like, I really want to highlight that because it's so true. And even when you watch TV, like, one of my secret obsessions is the housewives, and they always show them like drinking, having fun. Like, where are the hangovers at? You don't see, I mean, maybe once in a while it'll show the next day and they've all got glasses on and, but for the most part, it's glamorized, like you can't see the really shitty part of alcohol, which just perpetuates this, need to want to drink to have
Yeah.
fun, or be an
Yeah.
adult.
Well, and nobody knew, like, for me, nobody knew how many drinks I had before the thing that I did, or
Yes.
the drink, like, I gotta get up early. Like, no, I just wanted to go home so I could have more drinks and not be driving.
Oh my
So,
gosh. I totally resonate with that. Towards the end, before I stopped, I was drinking before everything. And
yeah,
then when we would get to the event, my husband would be like, you're already drunk. Because I was hiding it.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, he's like, did you take something? I'm like, no, I just had a couple drinks. And it's like, I had to pre-drink in my mind in that time to
yes,
even like go there. And then yeah, same thing, go home early so you can keep drinking. Yeah. Or you
yeah,
just like, I'm staying the night with your kids
yeah,
and calling
yeah,
Uber with your kids or, whatever it is. It's just such a hot mess. But yeah, the
yeah,
pre-drinking was something I began to hide and was doing it a lot. So I totally hear you
yeah.
on that.
Me too, me too. And I think the more people like you and me and just normal people tell these stories and talk about it, the more I think comfortable other people will be
Yeah.
because it's not like, alcohol is addictive. It's not me being irresponsible. I have a master's degree, I have a full-time job, I have two kids, I have a beautiful house. Like I am not
Mm-hmm.
irresponsible. Alcohol made me addicted to it. And I was super powerful to realize, thank goodness, like I feel so fortunate to have stopped and be
Yeah.
able to help people.
Yeah, I love the way you just worded that because so many times people blame themselves, they shame themselves, what's wrong with me? I'm
Mm-hmm.
an alcoholic, but really it's the alcohol, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're addicted to and it's on purpose. They're doing it on
Yeah.
purpose. You know, there's so much research behind that. We were just talking about the Huberman podcast, and
Yeah.
there's one about alcohol that I seriously recommend anyone to listen to. Even if you drink, if you don't drink, whatever your relationship is with alcohol, it's got so much good information. It's kind of long, but it's, oh my gosh, it's powerful. His whole podcast is great, but that one we shared amongst our pathmates, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, it explains like biologically, physiologically what's happening in your body with the alcohol. And it's just great. I love it. I love that. I feel like that's the part that really changed my subconscious,
Nice.
really understanding like what it does to me and
Mm-hmm.
doing the experiment in the path where you drink one and see how you feel. I did that without knowing I did it because we hadn't even got to that point yet. And I was like, oh, I did that. Like a couple weeks ago, I took a shot before we went to Home Depot. And
Yeah.
I think I talked about it in one of our calls
Yeah.
and I felt so terrible. And 1 hour later, I was like, oh, like I didn't feel like this before I took that shot. Like the alcohol made me feel like this. And it began to be something about feeling in my body and the
Yeah.
physical part of it, which kind of
Yeah.
leads me to the emotional based goal that really was pivotal in my recovery, honestly, because everyone is so focused on these behavioral based goals and forcing themselves, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it really doesn't work most of the time unless you're like extremely disciplined, you know? But can you tell the listeners a little bit about the emotional based goal and like why it works?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so we're, I think I want to preface all of this with like, we're so taught and wrapped up in our culture with our worthiness being tied to our behaviors. Like, we're told, to excel at school or, like get the best jobs, marry the richest man. I don't know. That's not how I
Yeah,
was raised, but
so
like some
true.
people are raised that way,
Yeah,
do run the fastest, play all these sports, do all these things. And so when we have these behaviors that we feel are negative or embarrassing or shameful, then we feel like we're our worthiness is at fault. Like we feel bad about ourselves. And that's where that blame
mm-hmm.
and shame happens. And then we get in this cycle like, what do you do when you feel like shit?
Right.
Well, I drink. I don't know.
Yeah,
So immediately out of the gate, when you set a behavior-based goal and don't meet it in the beginning of doing something like changing a massive habit that everybody, almost 87% of Americans do, and that
yeah,
you've done for so long, if you don't meet that goal, then you're going to feel like crap. And what do you do when you feel like crap? You drink. So you get back
right.
in this like huge cycle. And so setting an emotion-based goal, that's something that you can rely on your memories, your experiences, your emotions to drive you towards. So, for example, like instead of saying, I want to be alcohol free for July 4th, which is coming up pretty soon, you can say, like, I want to set this goal to remember July 4th. I want to drive my kids home. I want to feel free and clear. I want to connect with 3 new people at the bonfire. And these are feelings, right? These are experiences that you want to have.
Right.
And they are a little bit like you can remember, like, oh, Charlotte, do you remember that time, like in high school, that you met 3 new people at the football game? And you can remember that, right? Whereas
Mm-hmm.
you might not remember having a sober July 4th.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so those are things that you can slowly start to do, like, and to work towards, right? So what does a person that feels free and clear and remember their nights do? Well, they don't drink alcohol. They, maybe they start their day with a ice bath or like a yoga session. All these little behaviors that lead up to that feeling.
Yeah. It's all about the
What was,
feeling.
yeah, what was your goal? What was your emotion based goal?
Oh my gosh, it's kind of long. I remember when I did it though, I got some feedback because I posted it and I can't remember. And one of the coaches was like, hers has so many different um categories like wrapped into one.
Yeah.
Let's see, I have it right here somewhere.
Mm,
I have all my stuff. Okay, so it says, I want to feel free from anything controlling me. I want alcohol to be insignificant in my life. I want to feel content without any substances. Is that an emotional based goal? Because it
yeah,
worked.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Content, absolutely. Free. I remember one of mine was I wanted to wake up without thoughts running through my head.
Yeah.
Just, calm wake ups. And that was something that took a little while for all the ick to dissipate.
Yeah.
But no more like judging myself, no more wondering what I did the night before, who I texted, where I drove, what did I
Yeah.
miss?
Yeah. Right before I stopped alcohol, me and my husband, like, we went to a concert and we drank, and then we went to a bar after, and we don't even remember the night. Neither of us do.
Oh,
And we got into an argument, and like, I went home in an Uber and he like slept somewhere. He doesn't even remember. It was like
wow.
the rock bottom for us. And when he got home in the morning, I was like, "Where were you?" And he was so hungover. We both, like, we slept all day. We couldn't be parents. And that's we already, obviously, I was in the path at the time. So but in the beginning, like, it's like everyone still drinks while you're learning, right? So that's when you're really trying to get it in, because you're
Yeah.
going to stop drinking coming up. And that was just like such a moment for us. And we thought, gosh, if we would have, the cops could have came, we could have, gotten, it just could have gotten so much worse, and like, look where it left us. Like, you didn't even come home. I, everyone was blacked out. We don't even remember. Like, this is not the life we want to live, and
Hmm.
both of us agreed on that. So those types of memories really keep me from wanting to ever drink again, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Is
same
he
with
drinking
him.
still?
He's
He's not.
not. No,
Wow.
he's not like me when it comes to alcohol. He's not like that with anything. He just doesn't have those tendencies to get addicted to things. He doesn't like anything controlling him in that
Yeah.
sense. So I would always be the one, let's go party, let's go to the bar. I was like the one that had the itch, right? And he'd
Yeah.
be like, fine. And then once he would go, he would have fun and he would drink way too much. We both were kind of
Hmm.
like binge drinkers. And
Hmm.
so when I became alcohol free, he was like, "Yes, finally, like, I don't have to drink anymore to hang out with you." And
Oh.
he's
Oh,
had, like,
that's sweet.
I think we went took our 21-year-old to a restaurant, and they had a little bit of sake together, and then he had it with someone else, but he hasn't been buzzed or anything. I'm just so lucky in that sense. I always tell him that too. I'm like, "You make it so much easier
Oh,
by being the person you are." And I can't even imagine trying to do all of this with someone who, say, was an alcoholic, or, still drank on the weekends and wanted to go out to bars. And that would be really hard to navigate in a marriage.
yeah. Or judged you or something.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I know there's a lot of people where, their partner wants them to drink because that's their time together. And Henry and I were
Hmm.
like that. Most weekends, just him and I would stay up drinking and talking and laughing. But then it was the next day that just was terrible. So now we're learning we need to figure out other things to do to have fun together, and then wake up and feel great and have another beautiful day with our family. So we're kind of like experimenting with like dates and stuff. It's fun. It's
Oh,
without
yeah.
alcohol. Or it's like, what can we do? Let's go do a mystery dinner. Let's go try a different restaurant that we've never been to. So we're kind of in that space where we're exploring without alcohol
Yeah.
as a couple.
So great. I love it.
Yeah.
I think, like, for me, I was terrified just because my husband and I, that's the same thing. We would always have drinks, have fun with drinks. And I was really scared. I knew I was going to do it. Like, I had to do it for me and my health and my mental well being. But I was like, what if he doesn't think I'm fun anymore? What if he
Yes.
hates this new me? What if this new me sucks and I hate him? I hate that person too. Like,
Yeah.
what if we don't connect anymore? And I think that can be that fear can keep people from making change. But I think for me, it's really solidified my knowledge that he's the right person for me.
Mm,
He's my connection to everything in the world. And because he supported me through all of that. That's how I know, like, when you change, it doesn't mean you're pivoting and abandoning all the stuff that you were raised with or
Right.
you used to be. You're just like solidifying that person. Like now I really feel strongly like who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I mean, for me, it was more like, who am I without alcohol? And it
Yeah.
was going on this journey of discovery and what I
Yeah.
do like, what I don't like who do I want to hang out with without alcohol? Who still wants to hang out with me without alcohol? And so it's almost like it does solidify everything in a sense because you're kind of coming back home to yourself,
Mhm.
but it's also kind of scary, like
Yeah.
getting to know yourself again. And I think back to before I drank when I was young and how I didn't need it and it was fun. And I just keep reminding myself that that's possible, and having like laughter and just
Yeah.
pure joy when you're sober it's something that I not working on, but like really want to put myself in those positions or that environment to be able to laugh and have fun and like loosen up without alcohol.
Yeah, I think that's something that I try to remind my clients too is like, the world is not sunshines and butterflies and rainbows. We have, especially in my world, like we get the adrenaline rush of the crime scene and all the excitement of the bells and whistles in the middle of the night. And we have trouble coming back to baseline and just being like
Mm,
mundane, especially with our families and chores. Like, don't you know what I just did?
yeah, I'm sure. Wow.
But it's a good reminder too when we come off, especially in early sobriety, is like remembering what just being is
Mm,
and being able to kind of brainstorm and finding all of these things that who knows, like just making a list of anything and everything that someone might think is fun. It doesn't even have to be you, like,
mm-hmm.
but like people think skydiving is fun. Well, what is skydiving? Like, what kind of equipment do you need? And like, what does it
Mm-hmm.
cost? And where do you go? It's like, well, who knows? I have no idea if I like skydiving or not. I've just been drunk for the last 5 years. So,
Right.
like, let's explore it and see.
Yeah, so true. I'm finding that when I'm like I've been on two trips in the last couple months or one
Awesome.
trip and then one to the fair. And each one, I'm alcohol free and I'm having so much more fun. I'm riding the rides, I'm hanging with my kids. I'm not just looking where the next bar is. That's what I used to
Mhm.
do. If we were on vacation, I would just always have a drink in my hand, always want to know where the next drink's going to come from. And,
Yep.
my mind would just be consumed by alcohol. And when we went to the fair, I had this huge realization of just being on this fun ride and like screaming and laughing and my kids are with me, like my teenagers and my little ones, and it was just like such a moment for me because I was clear-minded and I didn't need alcohol to feel this amazing rush that I was feeling. And it just felt like
Yeah.
I was living, you know. It was great.
Oh, that's so great. I love
Yeah.
that. I'll
I,
never forget the first like real laugh I had when I was like, really a few months in. It just felt so good. I can't describe it. I just
did you
like
think
belly
about
laugh,
it? Like were you
Uh,
aware of it when it happened?
I think like, as it was happening, I was like, oh, I haven't laughed like this in a really long
Yeah.
time.
It
It
feels
felt
so
really
good.
good.
I'm more
Yeah.
of a serious person by nature. My husband's more of a jokester, but so it kind of takes a lot for me to laugh. I don't know why. I'm just kind of like my baseline's a little more serious. I don't know. So I love those moments when they do happen. I really appreciate them now. I wanted to explain, I feel like something that really kept me drinking was guilt and shame, right? So in the past, there's zero guilt and shame. Like it's
Yeah.
basically like if you mess up, because so many people are like, oh my gosh, I was doing so good. I had 7 days sober and I drank last night, and they just feel like complete shit, right? And you guys always tell us, it's a data point, and kind of explain to everyone what a data point is and how you would use those little, nights that you drink as a learning opportunity.
So this is where, and like, warning, I'm going to kind of say something about AA, but I could not identify with AA because I truly believe that a good scientist is somebody that tests out their hypothesis. And my hypothesis that I had no idea if it was true was, can I live a better life without alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was going, I had to keep going back and testing alcohol because I didn't know. I was like, okay, I get like 7 days in, and they'd be like, yeah, I feel amazing. Oh, maybe I can drink. Maybe I didn't have that big of a problem. No, my
Mm-hmm.
neighbors would say something to me like, you were a lot more fun back, when you were drinking. And that would
Yep.
be like, maybe I am not fun now. Like, I should drink again. So data points, it's just like gathering information and allowing yourself. And I think if you're going to choose purposefully to ingest alcohol during a time that you're trying to not drink alcohol, make sure that you use it for the purpose of getting information. So like figure out what the heck you're doing right now, which would require you to need some sort of toxin in your body. So if you're so stressed out or hungry or bored or angry or tired or lonely, what is alcohol going to give you? Do you really need to be numbed out? Is that what you want? Is that what you need? Maybe try having a drink of water, go hug your kid, go tickle a dog, like go
Mm-hmm.
run 5 miles. How about trying something different and something else natural that can
Right.
be the substitute for that? And then if you do end up deciding to drink, like, how does it feel after 30 minutes? Like you said, how does it feel after an hour? Can you just have one, or do you get that itch for another one? And if you have another one, is that making you feel better than before you had that first drink, better than you had no drinks? Or do
Mm-hmm.
you feel pretty crummy? And then really like identifying and keeping track the whole way through, when you've decided to drink is super useful. And then in the morning, like logging down all that information, writing it out, I call it mindful decontamination, like
Mm.
getting it out of your brain and onto a piece of paper, because then you can refer back to it if you want to, or at least like it's
Yeah.
out, those words are out and they're so useful because you can't, like, honestly, I can't remember what a hangover feels like, but I bet you I have a journal full of like those
Yes.
feelings.
I've read mine recently and I was just, this is it. I'm never drinking again. Today's the day. I think it was like August 14th of last year and I was just like so done in my mind, right? But then the next weekend would
Yeah,
come and where I wanted, my purpose in that was to go back and read it when I wanted to drink. But when you make that decision to drink, the last thing you want to do is go read about your hangover.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. It takes, I'm doing a program with another coach, and we're taking a lot of what we learned from This Naked Mind and taking a lot of things that I think are positive from AA. But the majority of the thing that we really want to stress it with people, for people, is that like this is your life. This is your sobriety. This is your recovery. This is your discovery, whatever you call it. Like
Hmm.
you get one life.
Right.
You get one chance and you're an adult. So like figure out what really works for you, whether it's cutting down on blame and shame and like learning and taking that pause and learning about what you're doing and why you're drinking and doing data points and all that stuff, or just like stop and start learning then. Like, but you got to know why you're here,
Yeah.
set that goal, and put on your big boy pants and start changing, because
Yeah.
it's hard, but I bet like you probably never thought you'd get to 8 months, right?
Never. I at that
Yeah.
time I didn't even think I could get 3 days at one point.
And look at you.
Yeah. It's it's the goal, it's setting the intention and like I said before we started recording, I I feel like subconsciously a lot happened in the program because of the way it's laid out.
Yeah.
And I really listened and did what I would, did the little assignments that were with each module and just got so curious and wondering, could this work? Could this really work for me? And of course, sometimes I was like, no, this isn't going to work. Like, I'm never going to stop drinking. And I would get in that negative loop. But luckily, Annie was right there the next morning to bring me back, and then the
Nice.
amazing coaching calls. I remember talking on one and I was explaining to everyone how I was hiding alcohol from my husband. And I felt really guilty about that because he was working out of town a lot and I was drinking, every night after work. And then I was even drinking on the weekends without him knowing, and everyone kind of helped me realize that I needed to tell him and be honest. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I listened, because he was able to really see where I was at and meet me where I was at. And he, luckily he was so understanding, he's
Yeah.
been so supportive throughout it. But like I was saying, something just clicked inside of me, and it was 6 days or so before the whole group stopped drinking, and I realized I don't want to drink anymore. It was like, I'm telling you, it felt like a miracle inside my brain. And my mom, this isn't the best thing, but she asked me to go buy her alcohol like 3 days after I stopped drinking. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a good test, I
Yeah.
didn't feel anything. I got a whole gallon of vodka, which was what I drank. Don't ask me why my mom would do this, like it. I was a little irritated in the moment. Like, why would you ask me to do this after I just got sober 3 days ago? But
Yeah.
when that's a whole another story. um, but I didn't feel anything, and I was so shocked that I had no desire to drink. The desire was completely gone. So when I tell people about the path and this naked mind, I'm like, that shit works. It worked on me. I don't know if it works on everyone, but the way my brain took in the information, it completely worked. I feel like it just like turned something. Like, what were
Yeah.
you saying earlier? Something has to go off in your brain to explain that.
Yeah, this is a early episode in the Huberman Lab podcast, which I'm obsessed with because, once I started realizing that once you kind of change your alcohol use habits, there's all these other habits and personal development that you can like use just inside of you to like make your
Mm-hmm.
life better. It's so cool. So Huberman talks about um, oh my gosh, the word just went out of my head. When you can change your brain, oh my God,
Like
it's gone.
it's okay.
Neuroplasticity. That's
There
it.
you go.
So we all are born, our brains change. They can develop, different connections and when I think it goes up until we're like 25 years old, our brain is always changing, and that's how we
Mm-hmm.
grow and learn how to walk and drive and all that great stuff. So but once we're the age 25, if we want to change a behavior or like a deep seated belief, we have to actively engage in specific patterns of behaviors, which begins with releasing specific neurochemicals. And
Okay.
I think there are three neurochemicals that you need to release in order to trigger your brain to be perfectly available to start to change.
Hmm.
And I'm listening to this podcast right now. It's I'll have to message you the specific episodes so your folks can listen.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those is a neurochemical that in our body makes us feel very anxious, very uncomfortable, like triggers that fight or flight with
Mm.
feeling. And so when we are getting ready to change a behavior like drinking, we are going to feel really uncomfortable.
Mm.
It's basically like our bodies being like, whoa,
Yeah.
and then we do it. Like then we're capable of change.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so amazing to read that and be like, oh yeah, like I remember that being like, oh my God, I'm so anxious. I can't believe I'm going to do this. Everyone's going to hate me. They're all going to think I'm a weirdo. Like, what if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work? What if, guilt, shame, blame,
Yeah.
blah. And
Yeah.
then you change and then you're like, oh, that was easy. Like
Yes, that
done.
is so true. It's so weird.
And
There's
that's
such a
all.
build up.
Yes. It's like, why didn't
Yeah.
I just do this and just do it?
Yeah. Our brains are amazing machines that can literally talk you into anything. And that's why I love subconscious work, because
Mhm.
getting to the subconscious is really the way out of trauma, I think, the way out
Yeah.
of, behaviors you want to change, or the way into a whole another beautiful life. So I love it. I love it. That's why I love hypnotherapy too. It's like
Yeah.
my new thing I love.
So
Um,
cool.
the last thing I wanted you to explain, because these turnarounds are so critical, like even in your own day-to-day life. Um,
Mhm.
and they really help people who are struggling with drinking. And so if you could explain what they are and give us an example, that would be awesome.
Yeah, Annie calls it the ACT technique.
The
It's
ACT
like,
technique, yes.
yeah, so you have an awareness, you clarify that awareness, and then you issue a turnaround. And so, to be specific, like you can do this on just like a statement, like I think wine is relaxes me, or you can do it on like a deep-seated belief, like, I need wine to parent.
Mm,
And you're basically taking that belief or that thought into a court of law and testing it. So you want to say, like, does wine relax me? Well, is that true? Like, externally, does wine relax people? Well, in the moment, yeah, like you drink that first drink and you feel that big dump of dopamine. It's like a analgesic, so it does technically numb your tongue, it numbs your stomach, it numbs your brain as it's soaking in. Like, I remember those feelings of
me
like
too.
that
Yeah,
first drink, like total numbing. They used to use it in surgery,
right.
um, to numb you out, but it doesn't last. That numbing feeling goes away,
Mm-hmm.
and then that euphoric feeling, 20 minutes, it's gone. And then, so maybe, yes, it relaxes you in the moment, but it does not last. Um, so does it relax me? Well, yeah, like I looked forward to it. It would relax me in the moment, but it ended up being like, for one drink, like I would feel guilty. I would feel shameful. I would have two, three, four bottle of wine, two bottles of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And then for days, I would feel anxious, guilty. It would lead me into drinking again for days. And
Mm-hmm.
so, no, I guess like alcohol doesn't relax me really. And how does alcohol, is that true? How does it make me feel? Like that statement,
Mm-hmm.
does alcohol, alcohol relaxes me? Well, gosh, I really wish like there were other things that relaxed
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Why can't I have, it makes me mad to think about that statement. Like, I have this really hard job. I deserve to have things that relax me. My kids should relax me, but at this point, all I want to do is sit on the couch with my glass of wine. That's not very relaxing. That's kind of boring, actually.
Mm.
And then, so after you kind of really tear it all down and tear it all apart, you can go back to the turnaround. So that's the T in ACT. And then you can just say a different statement, and it can be the complete opposite from your original statement, like wine doesn't relax me. And that's true for me. It wasn't true for me in the beginning, right? When I very first
Mm-hmm.
started this, my statement, my turnaround was, I'm learning other techniques to relax me.
I love
Or I could
that.
say, like, I'm learning about how alcohol doesn't relax me. And that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a lie. Like, we were talking about subconscious beliefs, right? Like, so you don't want to say something that your subconscious you think is wrong, because then you're going to
Exactly.
be confused. And like your brain is going to be like, no, it does relax you. What are you talking about? So
Right.
the whole point is like bringing up these beliefs that you have underneath, and start to bring them up and be like, oh yeah, actually that's bullshit. Like,
Mm.
alcohol isn't relaxing at all.
Yeah, it's so great. I love that technique, the ACT technique. Everything we're talking about, I'm going to put in the show notes too. And I don't know if there's a 30-day coming up or not, but
Hmm.
I would love to link that as well for anyone that's interested. Um,
Yeah, I can send that to you, and I'll send the Huberman Lab. But yeah, there's a live alcohol experiment for July.
Yay. So yeah, anyone who wants to
Yay!
learn more about, just changing your relationship with alcohol and um, learning about Annie Grace and how she does things and all her wonderful coaches, that's a great way to start. And Scott, is Scott one of the coaches in it?
So
Or is it
Scott is not
change?
coaching anymore.
He's
Yeah,
not? Oh, I didn't know
no,
that.
yeah. So Scott has blazed his own trail. He's doing something with co-parenting. So he's always been
Ooh,
really interested in, yeah, coaching folks that are divorced and
I
trying
love
to
that. Okay,
co-parent.
well,
Yeah,
he's still
he's
doing amazing
amazing.
work. Yeah, he was a great coach. And I want to hear more about
Amazing.
your program that you're starting. What is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I do private work with last responders and first responders, and I have my own podcast too called Forensics Found. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I
I
love it.
gotta,
It's been really fun.
that's awesome. I didn't know that. I gotta listen.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. I talk to some sober people. Mostly it's folks that are in my, my world, and
Mm-hmm.
talking about mental health and wellness. But I am starting a program. It's called Sober Assembly. and I'm working with Coach Jeff Graham, and we're going to build on a lot of stuff that we learned from This Naked Mind. But like I said, we're taking from our own experience, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I'm hoping it'll launch in August. We're like finishing now. It's been something else.
So is it an actual program that people sign up for and a coaching program
Yeah,
type thing? Oh, that's
yeah,
great. How long is it going to
yeah.
be?
I think we're going to, we don't have everything totally worked out, but we're going to have like, it'll all be,
Different
it's like,
options or
yeah, there'll be I think we're starting with a 10-day kind of prefab
mm-hmm.
thing that you can do. But we're really relying on people's like ability to kind of build their own sobriety, right? So they're going
I
to
love
be
that.
picking and choosing things that work for them. We call our like kind of our learning phase day
Mm-hmm.
none. So you're going in instead of starting at day one, you're starting at day none, and you really build and plan and prepare.
I
And
like that.
nobody bakes a cake without a recipe. Nobody builds a house without a blueprint. It'll be all like planning and preparing and for success, right? Because it
Yeah.
sucks when you feel like a failure. And I went around and around with that failure crap for so long until I realized like it's a part of the journey.
Yeah. Failure leads to success for sure. And that's
Yep.
what scares people from trying things is they're afraid to
Mm-hmm.
fail, but you got to fail to get somewhere. You got to fail to learn, fail
That's right.
forward, right?
Yep.
Um, I would love if I know I didn't ask you to think of anything, but I'm sure you can come up with something. Just something, one last message to everyone. It can be, alcohol related or just life related, something you want to pass on to everyone that's listening.
Oh yeah, I mean, I work in the death field,
Yeah.
and I've seen lots of sad, tragic ends to people's lives where you don't get a chance to say goodbye, or you had no idea that this was coming. And families are torn apart by alcohol and drugs and
Mm.
stupid driving and disease and eating. And, like we don't have a choice when we get to leave this earth in most cases. And so I think if everyone could just take a moment and remember that we have a very short time here, and
Mm.
that we do get to decide how we feel and how we live this life, and we can really harness all of this exciting energy and this power that we have, even if we're dealt a shitty hand or a tough situation. Our mindset in that is well within our control, and we can, we can proceed in a way that makes us feel good about it.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And I can't even imagine that type of job. I would love to. I was just listening to Amanda Cadenet, and she did a podcast on um, psilocybin, like mushrooms, but they talked a
Mm-hmm.
lot about death in it, and they were talking about how it just needs to be talked about more, and how it's like this whole world of people that we don't even realize or talk about, and you're part of
Yeah.
that world. So that's so beautiful that you're willing to put yourself there. I would love to like dig into that another time on another episode, but I can't thank you enough for your all the talks we had, checking up on me even after the program ended. No other coach did. You did.
Oh,
And I just always felt a connection with you right off the bat, and I felt like I could be open with you and share the deepest, darkest things that a lot of people don't know. So I just fully appreciate you and want you to receive all of that love because you deserve it. And I can't wait to see what you do with this next program. And I want to watch it all
yay.
unfold.
Oh, thanks, man. You did a really good job, and I'm so proud of you. Good work.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you again soon.
All right, see ya.
Bye.